Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Senator Padilla. Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Judge, thank you again for your time. I made a note earlier, Senator Blumenthal had mentioned that to do this job that you are before us, wanting to take on, it takes book smarts and people smarts. And I think that's a very appropriate summation. And as we have spent the past few weeks going through your records, getting to know you, reading letters that have come in about you, hearing from people, I've kind of looked at it and said, okay, she has been richly blessed with God-given talents. And then she has experiences and education. And then coupling with that, hopes, desires, and a lot of drive that really make you the person that you are. And we have heard from your friends about how you are a friend and you've been a mentor. And as one of my friends would say, and I bet you kind of feel this void, you're the answer lady for a lot of issues that friends would bring to you. You love your family, and they obviously love you. And I wish you could see your dad's face. It is wonderful. He beams when you talk about the things that he has taught you. But all of that has been repeated time and again in letters for you. But it's important that we know this, and it's why we continue to ask you about your views on issue, because all of that goes into forming who you are and your worldview, and it all is applicable to the job that you've done in the past, and likewise the job that you are going to do in the future. And it does have bearing on different issues. And it's been so interesting to me to get text messages from friends at home that are watching this. I had one from a friend from church. And she said, you know, she seems really likable, but I'm not sure I agree with her on the issues. And this is someone who is incredibly pro-life. And she's about my age. So she's a mom and a grandmom. And this is a question that is important to her, to look at life. And Senator Feinstein talked about that issue with you a little earlier today. You've also said today that it would be inappropriate for you to share your views on political issues or issues that might come before the court, like abortion. But I want to go to you on something you said when you were in private practice. You made your views on pro-life and the pro-life movement very clear. And in fact, you attacked pro-life women. And this was in a brief that you wrote. You described them, and I'm quoting, hostile, noisy crowd of in-your-face protesters, end quote. And you advocated against these women's First Amendment right to express their sincerely held views regarding the sanctity of each individual life. And I'm a pro-life woman. 79% of the American women support restrictions of some type on abortion. And so I find it incredibly concerning that someone who is nominated to a position with life tenure on the Supreme Court holds such a hostile view toward a view that is held as a mainstream belief that every life is worth protecting. So how do you justify that incendiary rhetoric against pro-life women?
Thank you, Senator. The brief that you're referring to was a brief that I filed on behalf of clients who were clients of my law firm. This is in, I believe, 1999 or 2000, maybe 2000 or 2001.
Yeah.
I was an associate at a law firm, and I had appellate experience because I had just finished my Supreme Court law clerk position. And in the context of my law firm, I was asked to work on a brief concerning a buffer zone issue. In Massachusetts at the time, there were laws protecting women who wanted to enter clinics, and there was a First Amendment question about the degree to which there had to be room around them to enter the clinic.
Right.
And
I understand all of that. I'm asking about the rhetoric.
Senator, I drafted a brief along with
Okay.
the partners in my law firm who reviewed it, and we filed it on behalf of our client
Okay.
in to advance our clients' arguments that they wanted to make in the
Okay.
case.
Let me ask you this. When you go to church and knowing there are pro-life women there, do you look at them, thinking of them in that way, that they're noisy, hostile, in your face? Do you think of them? Do you think of pro-life women like me that way?
Senator, that was a statement and a brief made
Okay.
an argument for my client. It's not the way that I think of or
Okay.
characterize people.
All right. Thank you for the clarification on that, because I think even zealous advocacy doesn't allow that type of rhetoric on a free speech issue. You know, Roe v. Wade, let's talk a little bit about that. It's come up touch today. In my opinion, that was an awful act of judicial activism and has cost the lives of over 63 million unborn children. And nearly 50 years later, this shameful ruling remains binding precedent, but the battle is being fought in the courts. And as you know, and as we discussed when we visited, the Supreme Court is reconsidering whether the Constitution protects the right to an abortion in Dobbs. And if you're confirmed, you will be in a position to apply the court's decision in Dobbs, whatever that decision is going to be. And you've talked about following precedent and what the court decides. So do you commit to respecting the court's decision if it rules that Roe was wrongly decided and that the issue of abortion should be sent back to the states?
Senator, whatever the Supreme Court decides in Dobbs will be the precedent of the Supreme Court. It will be worthy of respect in the sense that it is the precedent, and I commit to treating it as I would any other precedent of the
There's
Supreme
one other thing. One of the central issues in the Dobbs case is about whether the Constitution protects the right to an abortion. So let's talk about that. Can you explain to me on a constitutional basis the court's decision in Roe, and where is abortion protected in the Constitution?
Senator, abortion is a right that the Supreme Court has recognized is one of the kinds of rights that is unenumerated.
Okay.
It is in that same category of rights that the Supreme Court has recognized.
But the text of the Constitution does not mention abortion.
That is true.
That is true. That is correct. So you agree that the Constitution does not mention the right to an abortion, and yet, through one of the most brazen acts of judicial activism, our Supreme Court created the right through Roe v. Wade. This is why Americans, this is why so many women that I've talked to are really concerned about who sits on the federal bench. We need a justice who will adhere to the text of the Constitution. You've talked a little bit about that today as you talked about historical context. And they don't want justices who are going to invent rights out of whole cloth to serve a political interest.